Apologies to everybody for the late start, and thank you for your patience. I think we'd all just love to get these minutes done. So let's take a quick roll call attendance and get this started. Susan Franklin,
Here.
Francine Lyons.
Francine Lyons here.
I actually had to stop and think there because you're showing up as Jackie Lyons. I'm having one of those
That's my
days too.
son. Yeah, that's my son. Sorry.
If I call you Jackie, it's
I get called that
entirely
all the time.
my fried brain. Corey Evans.
Corey Evans here.
And Brian Host here. Okay, so time's 5:40 and we are now in session. So we, as the first item of business, are hoping to approve several dates of minutes. Francine sent over the three that were outstanding, and I also sent over the one that we identified in our last meeting as missing, which was the pre-meet from annual town meeting in 2023. And I think that should plug all the gaps in this. I think each of us probably has some other minutes that we've approved that we haven't actually submitted because they're not uploaded on the website yet, but they're all approved at this point. So I think we just need to turn in what we have. So why don't we start and just do this in chronological order. The first set of minutes I have are Francine's from, well, let's do 2024 and then we'll go back to the 2023 one. So the first set from 2024 is April 10th. Does anyone have any comments on the minutes of April 10th?
No.
Nor I. Okay. No comments. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of April 10th.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Francine. And we'll do a roll call vote. Corey Evans.
Corey Evans, aye.
Susan Franklin. Susan, you're not on mute, but we also can't hear you. I'll circle back to you in a minute. Francine Lyons.
Francine Lyons, aye.
Brian Host, aye. And Susan Franklin.
Susan Franklin, aye.
We heard you a little bit, so just enough.
All right.
Okay, that brings us on to April 25th. I just saw one typo in this, which was in the first kind of full paragraph about the facilities requests.
Mhm.
4 lines down, it's 500 kilometers. It should be K.
I see it. Yep, I see. Yep, sorry about that.
But I'm not sure it's the kind of thing anyone would have ever objected to if this had gone to the formal filing. So clearly just a typo. I didn't have anything else on this. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? Or typos or errors?
No, Francine, I like how you put all the things together. That's just the easy way to capture all the votes. So
I had to listen to this one over and over because I had my notes, but my notes were jumbled and I didn't have the right order in my notes as to the amendments and the whatever.
So Francine, in sympathy to you, in 10 years, I've never seen a motion be doubly amended and then passed. So you're a good sport in tracking the strangeness of what happened that night. If we have
question, I guess we lost somebody. I think, oh yeah, we lost Ralph midway through the meeting. That's why our roll call was 4-0. Yeah, that's why, because a bunch of stuff was oh, Mike Dick left the meeting. My apologies.
Yeah, Mike left the meeting.
Awesome. I'll move to approve it. Looks great.
Great. Do we have a second?
Second. Oh.
Thank you, Susan. And we'll do a roll call vote. Susan Franklin.
Susan Franklin, aye.
Francine Lyons.
Francine Lyons, aye.
Corey Evans.
Corey Evans, aye.
Brian Host, aye. Okay, so that is April. Then we move on to June 12th, which was the laundry list of minutes, which I did not have any comments on this. Do others? Okay. Well, I do just want to take a moment and say, Francine, this is 4 pages of minutes in incredibly condensed form. And I know that was a whirlwind of a meeting and you were writing furiously. Thank you for your attention to detail on this and actually getting it all down on paper so that we could get it into a set of minutes to approve.
Sure.
That was no easy task, and I just really appreciate it. If there are no further comments or questions, let's see if we've got anyone that'd like to move it.
Moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second,
Thank you, Susan. And we'll do a roll call vote. Susan Franklin,
Susan Franklin, I.
Francine Lyons,
Francine Lyons, aye.
Corey Evans,
Raven's eye.
Brian Host, aye. Okay, so that's it for 2024. And then in the process of that last meeting, we identified that we didn't have minutes for the May 1st pre-meeting prior to annual town meeting last year. And I guess in retrospect, that's logical. We met, at the school, there was no Zoom, therefore there was no transcript for Leontina to transcribe, and there were no minutes. So I went back into my notes as well as the cobwebs in my memory, and I created the record as best I could. This is what I believe to have happened, and have some notes that suggest this is what happened. And I just ask that each of you glance at this closely and see if this is in line with your memory. Corey, I know you weren't there, so this is really directed at Susan and Francine. And Francine, I know you, or I recall that hopefully correctly, I seem to recall that you abstained from that vote because you had missed the meeting the week before when the Town Hall Building Committee gave their update. And it's okay that you missed the vote. We will still need your vote to approve the minutes, and just the fact that you were there and can sort of approve that this is in fact what happened, I think is.
I recall that. Yeah. No,
Is-
I recall that I was not comfortable saying one way or the other.
Okay. So this is what I had for that meeting. And so just ask each of you, Susan and Francine, does this reflect the meeting as you recall it?
I think it does, yes.
Okay.
I agree. I have no comments.
Okay, perfect. Well, with that, I entertain a motion from either of you and a second from the other.
So moved.
Thank
Second.
you. Thank you.
Okay.
We'll do a roll call vote. Susan Franklin,
Susan Franklin, I.
Francine Lyons,
Francine Lyons, aye.
and Brian Host, aye. And Corey, thanks for bearing with us on that one. Now I know it's we got off to a late start. And Michelle, it sounds like you're scrambling with a bit of a day. Do you, Michelle, have time to give us a quick update on the police station, and the rest of the committee members? Are you okay getting that at least through that item on our agenda this evening?
Sure.
Okay.
It's a very quick update. So we put out the bid for OPM services. We had 9 firms come for the walkthrough. We had 7 firms submit. The submittal was due on the 25th. We received 7 RFQs. We have an informal committee set up to review all the qualifications and grade them, and that is due July 8th at 2 p.m. And we will be presenting 3 or 4 finalists come July 9th. And at the finalist point, we are going to set up interviews, and that'll take probably about 2 weeks. So the beginning of August, we hope to award and have someone on board.
And that's the OPM, Michelle. Where does it go from there once we hire our OPM?
Yep. So once we hire our OPM, the next step is designer services. We hire a designer. We go through the same exact process to bring on a designer. We go through the RFP process, the tour process, the qualifications process. So we won't have a designer on probably till October, November.
Okay. And in terms of, I know you were you had a vision for some slightly different ways of approaching this versus some of our past town hall projects, for example, just trying to contain the cost. How do you see this sort of playing out? Are we doing more of the design work, sort of sketching on paper and hoping to hand it to an architect to turn it into a set of plans, or what's your vision, I guess is what I would say.
Sure. So during the walkthrough, there was one question that was asked, and of course, that's what's our budget?
Yeah.
We told everyone we had an $8 million budget. They asked how we were going to achieve that. And we said we are going to have a need-based station, not a want-based station.
Yep.
And we have preliminary designs and preliminary space planning from both chiefs. And those will be incorporated in the design, and hopefully with their input of exactly what's needed versus what's wanted, we can cost contain.
This is also interesting, since we've kind of set a budget ahead of time to see if how this changes the process. Michelle, I'll be really curious as to your
Yeah.
experience going through it this way, which is a little bit backwards than we've tried in the past.
Right, yeah, I'm curious to see how it pans out as well.
Yeah, but we have the money approved, so there's, it's almost like bird in the hand, old analogy. Right.
Right,
So-
and I think that's why we had so much interest, to be honest. It wasn't a typical
Right.
project where, we put this out and maybe we'll do one, maybe we won't. Even though it's only $8 million, it's a guaranteed $8 million. And there's a
Yeah.
lot of projects on the South Shore that are winding down. It would
Yeah.
be very easy to move their crews right up the street.
How many applicants? You said 9, was it?
So for OPM, we had 9 people, and then 9 people tour, and we had 7 people submit.
That's great. Wow, that's much better than typical. Wonderful.
Mhm.
And refresh my memory, Michelle, OPM fees are generally driven by total project costs, are they not?
They are.
Okay.
They are. So on an $8 million project, you're probably looking at about $800,000 in OPM fees.
Right.
Were they consistent, Michelle, in terms of what they're looking for? and for fees?
Yes. So we don't even negotiate a fee until we come down with the final 4. You have to leave that completely separate because it has to be a qualification based pick. So you qualify them, you come down to your final 3 or 4, you choose your finalists ranked in order of 1 through 4. You negotiate with the top one. If in fact you can't come to an agreement, a feasible agreement cost-wise, you can go to number 2.
Okay.
And Michelle, in the needs-based program, does that include the ambulance bay?
It does.
Okay.
It does. It gives Chief Doc Wright some of the space that he's looking for, allowing it to be a substation.
Mhm.
A substation versus a second fire station. And Chief Quigley has already made concessions to his design without even knowing where the costs are. He knows where he can pull from and where he can't. Whereas, the holding cells, of course, there's nothing you can do about it. Those are code compliant cells. They're regulated by the state. So there's nothing he can do there. As far as the Sally port, he doesn't need a brick Sally port. He could do something as simple as a chain link fence as long as it's lockable. So he understands that there's some mechanisms he may have to pull to reduce the cost.
All right. Do we have any other questions for Michelle?
No.
All right, Michelle, well, good luck with it. It'll be interesting to see this play out.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, good. I think Corey made the comment that we're doing this one backwards, and I think in terms of municipal projects, this is backwards, but actually setting the budget first may not be backwards at all. It's kind of the way we all spend our own money, right?
Right.
I just like the concept of capital budget, instead of saying approving something, we just give a good luck vote from now.
We're gonna give you a good luck vote, always. Okay. I think that the last item on our agenda for tonight was really just, well, I call it more conceptual than anything else. I really want to get people thinking, as we close this cycle about, what we can be doing better in the next cycle, and in future cycles. So, call it improvement of best practices or adoption of best practices. And it really doesn't have to be a discussion tonight, but, I think in the past, we've generally come out of town meeting, we put our pencils down, we've enjoyed our summer, didn't really think about it, and we just, pick up, with the next cycle. And if there are things we should be doing differently, now it's like, it's before we sort of head off for the summer, now's a pretty good time to think about it. So I just ask everyone to sort of, reflect back on the, on the past year and think about what we could have done better. And we can either share that in emails, or we can, given it's not a deliberation, or we can discuss it in a future meeting. I mean, if people have thoughts right off the top of your head, that's a lot of times a knee-jerk reaction is the very best, and we can do that right now. But I don't want to force a discussion that people aren't prepared for.
I mean, I would just say, like, I think just using the summer to develop some very very, low stress conversations about what's coming up, right? Just to get people in the creative mindset. Not that we need anything, but if we just want to kind of divvy up the town a little bit and just kind of have some preliminary, hey, what are you thinking sort of conversations. That way, at least we're on, like, we know for Brian Joyce, we're probably going to expect, the
lift.
2-post lift. Exactly. Or
Yeah.
something changed there, Brian, like those sort of things. The schools,
Yeah.
we've obviously got a long-term discussion. We've got a lot of work to do with the schools, with the new superintendent, but we've also got, unresolved things, which we want to talk more about, but also, now that we've closed the school year and we can kind of repackage some stuff, maybe just some very, high level contact would just be helpful. That way we're not starting cold.
Right.
But again, nothing, we're not gonna, I don't want to call anybody in and, ask real questions, just, start building some bridges.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And Corey, you make an interesting point. The other item that we sort of fully expect, I think, is going to be the next step on town hall at special town meeting. So I think we need to be particularly vigilant about capital requests coming in from, departments that would potentially compete with that priority, and really just making sure that they are in fact necessary special town meeting requests, as opposed to, things that can be done in annual. I just think that my sense is that there's a strong expectation we need to continue making progress on town hall. But that was just my sense. It's not even my vote, and my voice is just one of many on this. So
Well, yeah, we'll see where free cash shakes out. I mean, if it's the town's, the strategy of kind of putting some money at special towards, a soft earmark towards town hall, I think was an effective way to ensure that there was something available, but it also
Yeah.
didn't force us to weigh things against each other. We were able to go through our normal process and appropriate as we felt necessary, without kind of having a big elephant that we had to deal with as well. So, I mean, I think that's just a good process to keep in mind for
Yeah.
special. Yeah, just to put some money away.
yeah. And I
last
know we
year,
haven't really discussed this much as a committee, but we're closing in really on the end of our in-levy capital debt service, which has a profound impact on our ability to spend the appropriation that we get each year, as opposed to losing, $400,000 right off the top each year in debt service. I mean, we can put that directly against projects, which is going to be very powerful. I think, Michelle, correct me if I'm wrong, I think in 2026 we're down to about 85,000 in debt service annually, and I think
That's correct.
yeah, I think that's fiscal 26. So this is really the last year that we have debt service, major debt service, in the hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt service. So fiscal 26, it drops down to about 85,000. So almost the full 2 million that's coming at us each year will be available to put against projects, including town hall.
Susan, I think I heard you, but you're really quiet, so I couldn't tell if you were actually talking.
Oh, no, I think that's very good news to hear, Brian, but I was just gonna mention that the last go around last year, we had a pretty defined objectives from the select board about what the things that they were looking to as high focus items.
Mhm.
And do we perceive having a similar directive this year? Like last year was recreation, schools, and town hall were the big priority items.
It's a question to which I don't surgically know the answer. Corey, you actually sat on that board, so you have probably a better idea if their cycle in terms of setting priorities than I do. But my sense is they set their priorities once a year in the fall, and put out a you know, and put out a priority message and a budget message.
Well, but remember that the priorities from last year, as distilled, as Susan just said, were not brand new that year, right?
Yeah.
So we've been through town hall multiple times. We were kind of stuck. We have to figure something out. I mean, it was literally do or die moment. Same thing with rec, right? We'd been through basically a year and a half of plans and ideas, and that got boiled down. So I think for this year, and again, I don't know anything, but just I get the sense that there's going to be a little bit of a reset, a little bit of a quieter period, because we had so many things coming to a head. I think the big focus is going to be on the school stuff, right? Because that's where the majority of our dollars are going to go in this next cycle. So I think that's probably, it's going to be more execution on what's already at the table instead of any new priorities. It's just kind of the feeling I'm getting. So
you just hit the key word that was kicking around in my head, Corey. I think, their objectives every year. This year really is all about executing all the things that have already been funded and committed. I mean, Michelle and Brian and Nick have their hands, like absolutely full with the things that have already been pushed forward.
Yeah. And the only other thing that just I wanted to point out is I'm glad that obviously the debt rolling off, but we have to have some way to one, obviously project out better. I mean, I think if we have a 3-year projection, that's like the best we can get. I mean, we should be much farther than that, but also we should be able to have strategic discussions about the use of debt. I mean, if there's some things that we can get done in 1 year, I mean, if you're just looking at, inflation time value of money here, like paying for them over 10 years doesn't make any sense. So, we have to be able to figure out how, as a committee, we guide that conversation. And that requires kind of a long-term vision, and, good luck. Back to that.
No, I hear you. My knee-jerk reaction is that it's a critical tool that should be used when necessary, and not as a convenience to just buy stuff that we don't happen to have cash for at that moment in time.
Right. Yeah, it's a discipline we have to develop. It took us this long to get the debt level down, so we don't want to just get it back up again.
Well, with the debt level
wonderful position to look at the way we do things differently.
Was the debt spending, I mean, this is before my time when we got it, but it was mainly for the Osgood School, right? That's what's rolling off right now?
No, there's a whole bunch of stuff in there.
Okay. All right. I mean, that's kind of, looking back, I mean, when the debt's off, it's easy to say, well, it's glad it's off, but it's, you also kind of have to go back in time and kind of rethink about the decisions that were made at that time and see if what information we can glean from.
Yeah. So I mean, just rattling a couple things off the top of my head. I mean, we bonded things like, the Gulf River Bridge re-cementing. We bonded things like the Jacobs Meadow culvert. We bonded things. One year we bundled up a bunch of stuff that was DPW and bonded. I think it was like a dump truck and a backhoe and something else. So, they weren't bad decisions at the time. Like, we didn't have the capital to do all of those things at the time.
The bridge projects, that wouldn't have, there's no other option there.
Yeah. And I may have misspoken on one or two of these, but it was those types of things, right? But we also were not receiving, anywhere near the capital appropriation that, we had a lot more debt service back at that time that was rolling off sequentially. So we didn't have as much capital to invest in those given years. And that's why we still needed to rely on some debt. But we're kind of out of that vicious cycle at this point, where the debt service is not, it's no longer eating into our ability to pay as we go with regards to our needs. And so, using debt at this point, really should just be a matter of necessity, not anything else. Yeah. Corey, I mean, when I started on this in 2015, I mean, we would have like $500,000 to spend across all the departments, including the schools, right? We're just in a completely different place now.
Yeah. I mean, if we've got 2 million after, 2 million, even with the, once the debt stuff comes off and you're talking $1.5 million for schools, another 500, you're talking easily a $3.2 million of spending.
I mean, this year we did, the senior center AC was a $500,000 project, and it just slid right into the budget, right? We had to pull back the lift, but that was it. So we're in a different place.
I mean, on that topic, I think we should make some noise about how this process has succeeded. Like at town meeting, am I blurry or are my eyes blurry? I'm blurry. Okay.
You're blurred.
Anyway, I just opened my eyes and I went blurry. I didn't know if I was need to call a doctor or something. But just because no one sees this, but it's important that we did it.
Yeah.
Just like OPEB does. I mean, just having, being able to stand up in front of town meeting and say, because of these budgetary processes, we are now debt free. We're able to appropriate a lot of money. We're able to get stuff done. Thank you for the town for working through this with us. And, just that way everyone has that kind of good feeling in their head that we're doing this.
Yeah.
Because I think it's important. That
It's required a lot of tough conversations over the years, and discipline and just compromise, for lack of better terms. But we're really just about out of the woods on this, which is great. And then I think we also need to check in on past articles, just to check in on fund balances on some things. There are projects that we funded that I haven't really heard about in years, and I think we need to check in to see if those funds should still be there, if they should be released back into into capital budget, or reappropriated to other items for those departments. One example I just throw out there is the HVAC, the air handlers in the gyms, and those went from being funded to then receiving bids that were 2x what we had appropriated. Then I thought at one point I heard Nick say we don't need to do it at all because he installed the drip trays that should have been there from day one, and so that issue's resolved. I'm just not really sure where that stands, but that project's got to go one way or the other eventually. Michelle, I don't know, maybe you have an update there, but there are a bunch of items like that out there where there are large chunks of money that are kind of frozen, and I think we just need to go clean that up at the front end of the process next.
Yeah, so we're actually in the process of cleaning that up now.
Okay,
So
perfect.
you'll have an update shortly.
Okay, fantastic. All right, and I think that's all I've got. Oh, one last item. We've got we've got certainly have an open seat on capital budget, which we need to fill, and I would just ask everyone to think about any ideas you have for great candidates. I mean, some names have already come up, and I've discussed this with some of you, but everyone should be thinking about pulling in another great player for the team.
Michelle, could you update the capital budget page on the town with updated dates? Because I was trying to make sense of it. I was trying to talk to people. It's like, how many seats and when? It's like, I have no idea. Because Mike resigned, but I don't think Mike's term was out. So I don't know what Mike, so you know what I mean?
Yep, so Tracy's working on that as we speak.
I think Mike's term actually is up this year. I may be wrong, but anyway.
My term is up.
Yes.
Yeah. I know, Fred, but I think Mike got reappointed 2 years ago, so I think he had another year left.
Oh well.
Okay. Well, Francine, it goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway. You've been an incredible voice of reason and a thoughtful contributor, and we certainly hope you continue. But I'm not going to put you on the spot for an answer tonight.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I need to think about that just with what I see coming from my workload, because my responsibilities at work have shifted. So
okay, understood. And I thought you did a great job of, I think, telegraphing exactly what you could and couldn't do this year, and it was very effective and helpful. So thank you for that. I mean, we all have conflicts from time to time, so it's something we can work around. All right. That's all I've got. Does anyone else have anything else they'd like to discuss this evening?
Francine, I took the minutes. I'll send them around. They're already done. So unless
no, I had notes, but I usually
I'll just do it
wanna
live.
just clean them up. Oh, perfect.
Yeah, so we're good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Perfect.
Motion to adjourn then.
All right. Do we have a second?
Second,
All right. Roll call vote. Susan Franklin,
Susan Franklin, aye.
Francine Lyons,
Francine Lyons, aye.
Corey Evans,
Ravens, aye.
Brian Host, aye. Time is 6:09. We're adjourned. Have a great evening.
Right
everybody.
off.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Michelle.
Good night. Sorry I was late.
Not a problem.
No,
Thanks
no
again.
worry. No
Thanks for all
worries.
you do.